Happy summer. I feel like it's once it hits June 1st, it's officially summer. And I'm wearing my white because you're not supposed to wear it, before Memorial Day. So, all right, I'm official. So we're talking about sodium today, and I know Dr. Lopez talked maybe last week or the week before, I'm not sure. And he was talking about hypertension and processed foods and preservatives. It was a fascinating study, I thought, that he presented. I also loved the way he did present, and I loved the way he broke down that study in very simple terms. And I loved your questions for him. And he said you got a $20 question, I heard. So I'm sorry, I've never given you $20 for your question.
I'm beginning to tally.
So I'm talking about sodium today. I did throw in his little slide that he had that was the graph with all those preservatives. And I thought that was really interesting because it seemed everything was related to those preservatives and they had controlled for the sodium. So I don't know, I thought it was interesting. So we'll just talk about all that today. And okay. All right. And so here we go. Here was my study. This is actually not as current as his, but I liked it because the study showed, the study showed that adding salt to your meals can shorten your life. The end. That's it. So this was in a reputable journal. I think this might have been the same journal as his study, the European Heart Journal. And there were 500,000 people in the study. So like he was talking about, when there's a lot of people in the study, it's not just a fluke. And they answered questionnaires on diet and lifestyle. And just like his study, that's one of the issues with these type of studies is that people are answering questionnaires about the way they perceive what they're doing. And it might not be quite as great as they think they are being. I don't know. But they followed them for 9 years. 18,000 died early before they were 75. And it seemed like those who used salt at the table always, so they had certain definitions of how much salt you use. If they always shook at the table, and we know those people. My mom is one of those people. Just add salt and you don't even taste it. You just add salt. I come from a salt family. But they had 28% higher risk of dying early before 75. And they've, just like in that study Dr. Lucus talked about, they accounted for other things because you might say, oh, it's probably because they were overweight, or oh, it's probably because they drank too much, or probably because they had diabetes. But they cleared for all of that stuff. And even with all that, adding salt always at the table was the risk. The men lost 2 years of life expectancy starting at age 50. Women only lost a year and a half. I don't know why that was. It didn't show why, but we assume they had a higher stroke and heart attack risk with that higher salt diet, which, we expect. And, I've been using salt and sodium interchangeably. Salt is sodium chloride. So a chloride molecule is hooked to a sodium molecule. So that's table salt. So when I say salt, I'm meaning sodium chloride. But people with the highest fruit and vegetable intake didn't have a negative impact. So how's that for some good news? How's that for our watermelon salad? No salt in it, and it's lots of fruits and vegetables. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Who here shakes at the table? Shake salt at the table because we're doing sodium shakedown. You don't? Nobody does? Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Really? There's a few things, yeah.
Yeah, like if somebody makes it bad with no salt, I can see.
Oh, okay. What's the other food? I think a baked potato. I know that's hard. So I try to add all this pepper and other things, but it's not salt. I know. I know it.
It has a little pepper.
Okay, good. All right, that's awesome that we don't have any shakers at the table. How about when you're cooking? How much do you add?
I don't know.
Yeah, just a pinch. I'm a pincher too. So the recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Half a teaspoon. You'll do half or leave it out. If you're making bread, remember you need to have a little salt because the yeast slows down because of that salt. But yeah, you don't have to add it generally. And
They don't. Yeah, and it was like it was very plain. I didn't like it.
Oh, I hated it there. Yes.
And they kept commenting about they didn't use salt because apparently at some point, I think Sienna had all the salt and they just said, well, we'll do without, and
Right. That they will show you we're not going to use any, and they just kept doing it that way. I totally agree with you on that in Italy. Okay, so you can tell where we're heading with this. We're going to try to lower salt. So why do we care about blood pressure? So why do we care about salt? It's because water follows salt. So then if we have a lot of salt in our diet, we suck up more water and now our blood pressure goes up. So why do we care about blood pressure? Well, because it worsens our heart failure if we have anything wrong with our heart. It worsens Alzheimer's. It's high blood pressure is associated with stroke and heart disease. What else we got? Kidney disease, poor eye health. High blood pressure can affect the little tiny blood vessels in our eyes and in our kidneys. So that's how it affects those, and earlier death. So that's why we care about our blood pressure. And I know everybody here does. I see you over there getting your blood pressure. And I know if there's anything people seem to be confident about, it's we're not supposed to eat salt. It's not a controversial thing. So how much are we supposed to have? Well, the upper limit, according to the dietary reference intake, is 2,300 milligrams. That's about a teaspoon of salt. And exactly. So Kevin said, oh, that's a lot. I would never eat that much. But have you ever, I didn't have any cans of Campbell's to bring you, but if we had a can of Campbell's, that's going to be a couple thousand. If you go out to a restaurant and order the soup, you're getting 1,000 or two right there. So we normally wouldn't just eat a teaspoon, but we get it in our foods. So the upper limit for people who are a little older, 51 and over, for people with diabetes, high blood pressure, or kidney disease, and all African Americans, they recommend the upper limit of 1,500 milligrams, about 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt. So if you think, that's really not very much, and I'm looking at my cans, and some of them have a lot in it, you want to think maybe 500 milligrams per meal. So if you think, oh my gosh, this has 450, I can't have this. Well, maybe if you're having it with a bunch of fresh stuff, you could get away with it, so it might not be the end of the world. And according to Dr. Lopez's study, it's the preservatives in those items that are even worse for us than the salt. So the upper limit is 2,300 milligrams. And I looked back at that study of Dr. Lopez's, and the baseline sodium intake for those people was 2,700 milligrams on average. So some were as low as 25 and as high as 2,900 milligrams. So really, that's probably lower than the typical American. I bet the typical American is over 3,000. So I don't know if it's because they were French. Although French, when in their cooking, they tend to use a lot of salt, but I think they use less preserved foods. Yes.
I'm curious about measure sodium as intake, 23 milligrams.
Yes.
But when it ends up in your bloodstream and you have blood the sodium is really low.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's associated with not consuming as much. What is it?
It could be, but I think if it's too low, if it's a little lower, I don't normally worry about it. Sometimes it's because we fasted, or before we took that test or something. So we don't normally have to do it. I know one of my patients once, the doctor said, oh, yours is a little low. You better take salt tablets. And I don't know that that was the best advice. But I think it's got to help keep it in line to some degree. Yeah, if we're eating right.
Question.
Yes. Yes. Shout it out.
How much sodium do we actually need?
500. So thank you for asking that question, because, you make it think, oh, if, 1,500 is good, then 0 would be better. But our body needs it. And so a 500 is what we want to have at least every day. Well, so 500 milligrams.
So if
Yeah.
we don't add salt, getting it from other places.
Yes. If you don't add salt, yeah, you just get it. And it's in our foods too. I mean, it's in even our water filled foods. Celery is a shockingly high sodium vegetable. Yeah, I know. You know, like you chew more calories than you consume, but it does, I think it's like 86 milligrams of stock. Yes.
There's a balance though, because one time, my salt level fell like way below 100,
Uh-huh.
and they were like worried I was going into the fault.
Uh-huh.
But I also have trouble with, my teeth swelling up. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
There is a balance, you're right. And we do want to make sure our kidneys are functioning properly. Where sometimes you see people have way too little sodium is when you see those marathon runners who overdrink and they're not sweating it out properly, and the salt crosses the blood-brain barrier and they go into shock, or it's not a good thing. So we do have to have a balance. Yeah. Sometimes that makes me think maybe our kidney isn't quite doing what it's supposed to do, or yeah. So we want to follow up with our doctors on those things. They'll know.
Over athletes, they're not really healthy.
Well, you were right. They're on the one, yeah, one end or the other.
Right.
Couch potatoes are here and they're over here.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you're right. That's a good point.
Things that, like respiratory things that cause them to get sick really quickly.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's naturally.
If they were super healthy, they would be able to fight those things out.
Right.
They're super afraid of respiratory things.
So their immune system
Well,
kind of goes down.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Is naturally occurring sodium different than table salt?
Not necessarily. No, I think in our body it's all the same.
Okay.
We can just really shovel it in, just like processed foods. We get a lot more that way. Okay, and I know you know this, so I just threw it in here. High blood pressure, the numbers. We want our blood pressure to be less than 120 over less than 80, and then it kind of sneaks up a little, the 120 over 29, and still less than 80. But then we get stage 1 hypertension, 130 to 139, the systolic, the number on top, and 80 to 89, the number on the bottom. And then stage 2, 140 or higher, 90 or higher. And then, okay, we are really in trouble is when it's 180 or higher and over 120 or higher. So these are just kind of our goals. You guys get your blood pressure checked, so everybody's keeping an eye on you. So bottom line on high blood pressure, we want to choose a low sodium lifestyle, which we try to do. Our diet we encourage here is a whole food, plant-based diet. So whole foods mean not as much processed food. So that is low sodium. We're trying not to shake at the table. We're trying to use other seasonings to jazz things up. But a low sodium lifestyle is also choosing whole, real, unprocessed food. Just a lot like Dr. Lopez talked about last time. For blood pressure, we want to get moving like y'all are doing. Achieve a healthy weight like y'all are doing. Moderate or no alcohol. Alcohol can actually raise our blood pressure a smidge. So there is no safe amount of alcohol. So most of the wise people who are making guidelines are saying no alcohol. If you have trouble sleeping, and your blood pressure's up, they recommend checking for sleep apnea because that can contribute. No smoking and managing stress. Those are the big things. We're talking mostly about the food here today. So here's some tips for reducing your salt. Eat whole real foods that are made from plants, not made in a plant. So all the foods I gave you that have labels, we would really not want to have those very often. Now, that being said, all these things you see came from my cupboard. And so I do use canned beans. And I tried to choose the low sodium ones, and I rinse them off. So you lose about 40% of the salt by doing that, but they are convenient for me. So I do. I try to get low sodium canned tomatoes. I try to get low sodium anything else. Oh, low sodium soy sauce, which is not all that low sodium if you, when we look at these labels.
If you look at the ingredients, this is why I didn't switch to it, is because the ingredients are water, soybeans, wheat, salt.
Yes.
What's the point? The fourth ingredient of low sodium soy sauce.
Well, because by definition, I think it just has to be, what is that, 38% less than the real deal? So it's not even all that low.
I just use regular soy sauce, 'cause I like the taste better.
Yeah, so you can taste the difference.
This is more.
I do use the.
True. So
Yeah.
number 2 is eliminate the salt shockers. So soy sauce is kind of a salt shocker. I mean, it's crazy. I didn't have much in my cupboard, blessedly, that was a salt shocker, but there's a few. But over here, you've got the soy sauce, which is how much in a tablespoon? 590 milligrams in 1 tablespoon. And then some people say, well, especially the Bragg's people who make these coconut aminos, they say, oh, use these. They're so much lower. But how much lower are they? Look at your coconut aminos
140 teaspoons.
for a teaspoon.
So that's
There's 3.
6.
Yeah. So it's 400 and something. Yeah. So they are a smidge less, but not considerably.
So it's like
The
6%.
thing is, if it were a prime ingredient, if you're having coconut amino soup,
Yes.
that's one thing.
Okay.
This is.
We're just adding a little.
Okay. So a teaspoon is sometimes recommended, sometimes less, because it's a flavor, it's not
Okay, so that's a good point John's bringing up. So if you were having this high sodium thing and that was what you were eating, that would be too much. But when it's just a little flavor enhancer, we might be able to get away with it. But think about if you've ever been out for Chinese food or Asian food, it's already loaded when it gets in front of you. How much soy sauce do you put on it now?
I taste it first.
So you do taste it first. I don't know that I do. I would before I salt anything, but I don't always with my soy sauce. Because that's just what you do when you're there. It's a special thing. You get to have the salt.
You get monosodium glutamate.
It-
What is monosodium?
Sodium. Yeah, because sodium has to hook to something. So it's usually, it's monosodium glutamate, or we have sodium chloride, or we have potassium chloride. Things that would be a salt substitute, but they're all hooked to each other. Okay, we got to read our labels. That's why everybody's got some labels. If you don't have some labels, raise your hand and I'll bring you some, or I'll throw them to you. Yes.
During that places to test the sodium before you eat it.
Like a little dipstick?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's just your tongue.
Yeah.
But if you've really cut back on your salt, or if you've unfortunately had to end up in the hospital, say for a week where you didn't get any salt, you really can tell it when you get home, right? So I think we're the best judge. We can make that's a good question though. That would be fun. We can make healthy substitutions. We can modify the recipes we have. Like we said, if it calls for salt, you just don't add it. And eating more at home is one of the best things we could do, because we are just loaded down with salt when we go out to any restaurant, making the best choice possible. You still get too much salt.
What are the 3 drivers of activate the alphabet? Like salt, sugar, and.
The SOS free diet,
Yeah,
that one. So no salt, no oil, no sugar.
because David Kessler in this book talks about how, well, first of all, I classify food scientists as 2 types. One, worry about your health,
Okay.
and another group wants more shit. So what they do is he says that they combine all these things so that you just, when you have this, you bite into this thing that's just triggering all these responses.
Uh-huh.
One thing he says in his book is that the perfect food for that is Snickers bars. He says they are so well crafted that you just want to eat more and more of them.
And I think that's interesting. I think that is true of most any ultra processed food too. They're easy to eat. Dr. Greger right now, if you ever follow nutritionfacts.org, he's doing a little series on ultra processed foods and he's showing how they're designed to be able to go down quickly. So you eat them and then you think, "Oh, I can have more." And so you keep eating them. And it also changes the texture. So the fiber isn't using, if there is any fiber, we're not using it very well. And that's how they're designed, is to fast food.
Yeah, not making full.
Yeah, exactly. We don't get full.
Friggin' foods.
So we want to eat whole real food. So what is that? So how much salt is there generally in fruit? I think really not. Fresh fruit or fresh veggies or frozen veggies, generally very low. Right. Peas, frozen peas, I think they add a little salt to those. And celery has a little bit of salt in it. It does. What about intact whole grains? And by that I mean like the oat or the quinoa or give me another one. Farro, thank you. Yeah. How much salt is in those? So here, I have my farro bag right here. This is farro. It's a whole intact grain and it's got 0 sodium, I think. Let me make sure. Yeah, 0. So it's also going to taste like when it's going to be the thing I make for you. You go, "Oh, this needs a little salt." Well, maybe it does, but it's just going to be our flavor enhancer if we're going to use that. And maybe we would sprinkle it. What about dried beans? Any salt in those? No. How much salt well, we're going to go to the super processed. How much in your refried canned beans?
470.
Ouch. Yes. For half a cup. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
not only do they have, like, they break it down into smaller portions.
Yeah, they make it smaller so it's not as
And then-
big.
Then they make it 3.5 just to make the math a little bit more difficult.
That is so true. And that's kind of what they did on the coconut aminos. They made the serving size really small. And to compare it to a tablespoon, you got to be able to multiply by 3, which some of us struggle with.
59 served
Yes.
in this container. So, yeah.
Civil person.
If you just shake it.
You shake it just a little bit. That's the thing. Okay. So eating foods in their most natural form, usually you hardly have any salt. That's where this is going. Whole real foods. So, and we want to limit the processed foods because they usually do something. So even most of the things in here that I gave you have been processed to some degree, even if they're just beans.
That preservatives, which you generally have salt in.
You're right. So here, I must not have that yet. But this is, this isn't the right thing. I don't know how that got there. Interesting. Okay, so here are just some spice blends. Not sure why that's here, but here it is. And it just shows that you could make your own. Does anybody ever make their own little spice blends at home? Like for Italian seasoning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do for recipes, or if I'm trying to make something that's calling for 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning and now I'm out of it, I'm making my own because I have all these other things that I don't use all that much. And so I can make them that way. So I like those. So here's some more salt shockers. So there's our tablespoon of soy sauce. So that was $5.90. The straight real deal is $11.60. So really almost all of what we should have if we're over 51, which a lot of us are. You go the low sodium, 575, 590 on that one. Teriyaki sauce is just sweet soy sauce. So they just add sugar to it. So it's 610. So what are we going to do? We either will use less or we will find a substitute or we will leave it out. So for soy sauce, we could use other things to season with. So this has wine, we could do vinegars, we could do citrus juice. I know that's not going to cut it for our Asian foods most of the time. So we'll just use less maybe, or use the lower sodium version. What about soups? Soups are a little crazy. I don't think I had any canned soups to bring, so we don't have any labels to look at. But a pack of ramen, remember the kind that we had like in college and they were like 10 cents for a little pack? $16.60. And that's for the whole package. So you could, if you used ramen noodles, and sometimes we still do, ramen's kind of having a moment. Lots of people haven't eaten ramen. You don't want to get the ones in those little packages like we had in college because those are fried before they get in that bag. But if you do get one that's got a seasoning packet, just throw that seasoning packet away. That's where the salt is. It's not in the noodles. But look at Campbell's noodle soup, $9.60, 1 cup. I don't know. I was raised on Campbell's noodle soup. I don't eat just a cup. I eat the whole can. So then I got to double it, or I think it's 2.5. I would have to multiply. And if you got the healthier request, so that's one's a little healthier. It's a little bit less, but not substantially. But it is lower in fat. Or Progresso. What?
That are like, they have less salt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. And I need to make a trip to the store to look at those again. Progresso has a vegetable soup, 500. If you have soup at a restaurant, you're getting 1,000 easy. That's in the cup. So homemade soups are our best bet if you can do that. If not, you get the lower sodium ones.
So even, that's-
Amy's?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does. And I don't know how low they are though. I think they might be 500s though. I think they might be half of these.
Lower.
Yeah, so Amy's is a good one. Okay, they're not the ramen. So now what puts all the salt into your soup if you're making it from scratch?
You.
The what? Well, you put it in, but it's because it calls for a broth, right? Or something. So yeah, so we could either make our own broth that doesn't have salt in it. We could get low sodium broth. You could do low sodium bouillon cubes. I know Linda has those little low sodium bouillon cubes here that are really nice. And so, or if it calls for a teaspoon of broth concentrate or stock concentrate, use half of that or add more water to it, dilute it so you're not using quite as much.
It looks like every request is an auction room.
We'll find that a lot. You're absolutely right. Okay, what about sauerkraut? Now, I luckily detest sauerkraut, but it does have a lot of salt in it. And look at a pickle, 420. Look at pickle relish, 460. That's for, 2 tablespoons. How much is in a cucumber? None.
Reading a book on Ulysses S. Grant.
Yes.
For breakfast, we have a pickle and black coffee.
Ew.
Right. And he liked his meat like super well done.
Uh-huh.
And just like stiff as the sole of a shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Activated charcoal.
Yeah, that's basically it. It was just charcoal.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a lot to work with back then. Okay, now these are probably things you would never eat, but I just had to compare because they are salt shockers. So like the Kraft macaroni and cheese that, in the blue box that all the kids, we gave to our kids and kids, and they're still out there, 1,300 milligrams. You could get a vegan mac and cheese one. I think Amy's makes one. It's still 510. What about instant mashed potatoes? Do you guys ever do instant mashed potatoes?
Not since 1966.
Yeah, I was raised on them. Yeah, we had it when I was a kid. Yes.
Yeah, when I was, had some medical issues and couldn't eat one.
Yes.
I discovered potato flakes,
Yes.
and this is 100% potato. And
Where do you get those?
the color.
Potato flakes. So they're like dehydrated potatoes. Uh-huh.
I couldn't eat. No, I couldn't eat the skin.
Okay.
During this,
Right.
and I hate peeling potatoes.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't gonna peel potatoes, so that I still use them. They're great.
That's a fun idea. That would be good for a thickener for a soup.
Exactly.
I've never bought those before. Okay. Potato flakes. Yes. Potato. Okay. Usually whenever you see instant in the title, they've added flavorings and salt. So instant flavored rice. Like I was raised on rice-a-roni.
And preserve.
And preservatives. You're right. I gotta remember the preservatives now. So we make these things from scratch or buy just whole real rice and cook it. It takes a little longer, but sometimes it's worth it. Yes. Mincemeat?
Big job.
I don't know what mincemeat is. Isn't it a fruit?
But,
Some will have extract of beef.
Oh, it might have beef extract in it. So extracts normally don't have much salt, but if it's a flavoring, it might. But I would think it's not high. What do you do with mincemeat besides pie? But do you always make pie? I mean, isn't it only the holidays that we do that? Or do we do it year round? I don't know. Okay.
It's a big thing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's your homework to go home and look at that label. Okay. Look at the mincemeat. Yeah, I can say I've never had that. Okay, what about processed foods? I don't know. I know some people are eating meat, some people aren't. Wherever you're at, that's fine. But this is something my husband used to eat every single day. Was it ham sandwich? 670 in those Hillshire Farms, the little packs. Or deli turkey, Hillshire Farms again. So even vegan, if you go to the vegan lunch meat, if you like that kind of stuff, 300. Oscar Mayer hot dog, 420, which was shockingly low, don't you think? But of course, who knows what else is in it? It's all whatever they swept up off the butcher floor. So the salt is the least of your worries. But even veggie hot dogs are pretty high. And if we're looking at veggie burgers or those kind of things, they've got a lot of salt added to them. So the best thing is to make our own. And processed meats are a known carcinogen. So we really causing cancer. So we really shouldn't be having processed meats at all. If we are going to eat meat, we should get the whole real deal and small amounts of it. But making our own stuff or finding other things, other proteins, if we made hummus, generally can be very low in sodium, especially if we make our own. And that can go on your sandwich instead of that deli stuff. So we want to look at our labels. So everybody's got some labels out here. I think we got missing a few. So we want to keep our meals less than 500 milligrams of salt. And generally our meals might be less than 500 calories even. I don't know. So if it's a good amount of salt if the sodium is less than the calories. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm giving a few more things. So take a look at your labels. Everybody's got some weird combination. Oh, there we go. You guys, so share if somebody next to you doesn't have labels. So let me see. And like I said, I got these in my own cupboard. And I was really surprised that, what was it? Who has the beans? Oh. Yeah, buying beans this way. No. They're, you leave out the can, so everybody's worried about the BPA and the can and stuff. So I kind of like these, and they're have as much sodium as your low sodium beans do. And I get them when they're on sale because they're not as cheap as me. Or I just boil my own. Fraley's, I got it. I got it.
Refried black beans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the refried black beans too.
Well, I know there's a brand of canned beans at the co-op that is no sodium added. And I forget the brand, but they're a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Because they have less.
Right. I know. So how are those olives? Okay, so olives
For 2 tablespoons. Oh, there's 140 milligrams, not bad. 2 tablespoons.
not horrible.
This was a olives.
Is that 6 olives?
And it has,
I would think that would be.
this has more for 2
I mean,
tablespoons.
Okay, so you got is that the green chili salsa?
And it's got 2 tablespoons for 230 mils.
Oh, ouch. And you know a recipe? You might dump that whole can in.
Oh, yeah.
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 What else? How's the mustard?
I'm disappointed because I love mustard. I won't. eat
It's not
something
bad
if I
though,
have
is it?
mustard. 60.
It's 60. Dijon is a lot higher.
For a tablespoon?
And let's see, you got two kinds of beans. This, I loved this because I think I got these at Trader Joe's. They're Great Northern beans. And it says it's made with salt. But I think it has a fraction, it's got like a no salt added amount, like what is it?
130,
130.
4.5 cups.
Okay, and how much are these Great Northern?
These are 480.
480.
Well, how much? Same half.
Half a
Half
cup.
cup.
Half a cup. And how are those diced tomatoes? Those aren't the low sodium ones.
360
360 per
oh,
half cup?
half cup.
Half cup. Okay. Okay, and you got a couple pastas back there. Pasta surprisingly has very little.
Yes.
But when you get convenient foods, like we've been camping a lot, so I've been getting those noodles that are already cooked in the bag. You just have to microwave them for that, so I don't have anywhere to like boil. How much is in that one and that bag? Zero. Okay.
Like
The bro.
one cup is 220, and then per container 360.
Okay. So when they try to make it more convenient or instant, they add salt. Oats. If you get the old-fashioned rolled oats, none. If you get the instant rolled oats, they've added some salt to it. If you get the kind in the little pack where you just pour water in, they've added salt and sugar and who knows what else to make it taste yummy. So we just want to be, the more you do it yourself, the better off we are. Yes. It's a preservative. So it makes it last, till the next millennium. But also it tastes good. And I think we must demand it in some way. Like if we're not buying low sodium stuff, they're going to quit making it. So it tastes good.
I'm kind of disappointingly shocked because I don't go to Costco that often, but when I do, I get a hot dog with mustard, relish from
Oh, well, we're going to make our choices and sometimes we're just going to do what we got to do. But we're not going to fool ourselves to think that was really a great choice. In moderation. What? Okay.
Labels here and their serving size is a half cup
Okay.
and the calories per serving 100 and 110. But the sodium, this one is 140 milligrams. This one is 400.
Okay. Because the one in your left hand is the low sodium one.
Still,
It's a preservative, so
yeah.
they add it and it does change the flavor. I mean, we know those of us who try to cook low salt, it's different. So we kind of have to get used to it. All right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But I've heard from two different sources, Dr. Greger from
Yeah.
nutritionfacts.org and then Neil Barnard. They both said it takes 3 weeks to change your taste buds.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get through that 3 weeks without, like, if you're trying to give up whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have what you used to eat, like, it's too salty.
You were right.
And I did that. I mean, I was pretty much no processed food, except I loved Amy's beef and rice burritos. So
Uh-huh.
I was working, that's what I had for lunch. And then Glenn still had them, but I didn't. And then one day I stole one of his because I was starving. And it was so salty. I
So
never
salty.
it was, but actually, yeah, so then I got diet changes and now they're fine.
Okay.
Now I gotta get to the point where I can't stand them anymore.
And you're right, Mary. So they do say it takes 21 days to like change behavior. And so we weren't born to love salt. We were born to love sweet, but not salt. We learned to love it. So we have to unlearn that. And it can take 3 weeks of not having salt, of eating only whole real foods. And a week in the hospital will do that to you too. I remember when I came out of the hospital after a week, my mom bought me my favorite cashews and they were salted and I couldn't eat them. They were just so gaggy. I got over that real quick, sadly. But
So our bodies require salt.
yes,
But we will never get it from eliminating table salt. So it doesn't occur naturally in plants enough
to
to
be a
give
problem.
our RDA.
Yes, well, it does. We'd get the RDA if we just ate whole real foods and didn't.
And we would get enough sodium.
Yeah. But
The 1,500 milligrams?
no, that's the max. 500 is
is
what
what
we
we
want to make
want.
sure we get. Yeah.
Still, if plants only contain 2 or 3 milligrams each,
Well, it's a little more than that. It might be 20, it might be 30, like
Okay.
that celery was like 80.
yeah,
So it ends up being
It's
fine that way.
possible.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
just have to
okay.
be mindful.
But the shaking at the table is almost the least of our worries. I mean, we don't want to start doing that when we're putting the salt shaker down, but it's in boxed and canned foods. It's all this stuff. It's in restaurants. That's why our best thing we can do is quit going out to eat and trying to use whole real foods as much as possible and limit your convenience foods. I mean, that's why you find these in my cupboard is because they're convenient. So if I really did it right, and you'll find this in my freezer too, I would have boiled all my beans from scratch and had them in my freezer waiting for them. You'll find a little of that, but I have these on backup too. Breast milk, I think it has sodium in it, but it's got just the right amount. It's the perfect food. Okay, this we already looked at the labels, so I'm gonna skip this. These are just some substitutions. So we can take our favorite things and sub a little bit. So instead of Raisin Bran, which has salt in it, and it's oddly, you wouldn't think Raisin Bran is sweet, but it's got salt in it. And we switched to like shredded wheat or oatmeal I have farther down instead of the packaged instant oatmeal. Or instead of those little frozen waffles that you buy from Eggos, you just make a couple of your own, which could not be easier. You smash a banana with some blended up oats that now you have oat flour and add a little of your plant milk to it. You got a batter. So easy. Noah's bagel. Bagels are super high in salt because they're huge. A bagel is the same as like 3 pieces of bread. And bread always has salt. So yeah, because who doesn't? I know. So maybe we switch to an English muffin and they're a little smaller. Oats, we try not to do the instant. We do the old fashioned. So that's breakfast. Lunches, maybe forget that burger patty or veggie patty and try hummus and pile it this high with vegetables. DK bread is the Dave's Killer bread. It just happens to be the one I like, but it's got some salt in it too. We just pile lots of veggies in it. There's our Dijon. So you don't have to feel bad about that mustard. Dijon's what I got to feel guilty about. Instead of a cookie, we have a piece of fruit. Because look, cookie, $2.50. Who would have guessed? Well, if you've ever made cookies, I guess you'd guess. Not in Leanne's cookies. And what about condiments? So if we buy our own dressing, it's got lots of salt in it. If we use vinegar, doesn't have any. The little dressing I put on this watermelon thing, no salt. I put veganese here because that is a vegan mayonnaise, but it's loaded. Instead, we smear our bread with avocado. Instead of the Dijon, we tried plain old yellow mustard. And you said yours was only 60, huh? Was that for a tablespoon? A teaspoon. Oh, okay, so I'm going to have 3 teaspoons. I'm going to have a tablespoon. There's our difference. Okay. And what about ketchup? Loaded.
That's lots of sugar.
It does. Oh my gosh. So we try sliced tomato. Last time I did this, we discussed the difference between like fat-free mayonnaise if we did that, or homemade mayonnaise, or a cashew mayonnaise, or the store-bought mayonnaise that you get that's vegan, and just looking at the sodium, it's the least would be your homemade stuff, of course. The store-bought. Yeah. Oh, I'd be curious about that. Yeah, okay. I'd be curious about that. So make your own on your condiments when you can. I'm not going to make my own mustard. I'll just let you know. But John, do you ever make your own mustard? No. I do make my own mayonnaise. Ketchup, I will just buy it. Peanut sauce, we've made that numerous times in our demos, so that's easy to make. Salad dressing, super easy to make. And what about snacks? That's where we get things, a lot of salt too. So what about if you buy the bag of microwave popcorn? Anybody like that stuff?
No.
No? I actually do not. I don't like popcorn, but look how much salt's in that. You air pop some popcorn, no salt. Of course, it tastes like little styrofoam things. So what are you going to put on it?
Butter and salt.
It does taste like that. It looks and tastes like that. Okay, what if we weren't going to use butter and salt?
Nutritional yeast
we-
and cayenne.
There you go. Thank you, Leanne. Okay. We could get unsalted nuts. When you buy the little snack bars, they're loaded, but we could just have a piece of fruit. None. Pretzels loaded. You could get the unsalted pretzels, but it is just white flour stuff. There's nothing really good in it for you, but we could make some kale chips. We could or have a piece of fruit instead. A cheese stick. Cheese is usually loaded with salt, so we have carrots instead. I think it's more than trying just not to have salt. It's wrapping your head around these are fun snacks. You know, that's what it's a whole different mindset.
Why the on the side and just not have the others available? Like we don't buy sodas.
Okay.
They're not available.
So you leave stuff, yeah, you don't bring it in your house because if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So we try not to do that. Yes. Me too. I think there is a little bit, but it is really good.
How do they put the salt in?
I think it's salted peanuts.
Yeah.
Or they're roasted.
They're roasted, well, at the co-op, they're roasted if there's no salt.
We need to check that out. I'm putting you on that. It could be raw.
Yeah. It's,
Okay, so it's the raw or roasted. So maybe they're not salted peanuts.
yeah.
Yeah,
It should be.
I don't know. At Winco, yeah, we'll have to check that out. I just got some this weekend. Yeah. Let's see, where are we at? Desserts. Eating like the real deal. What I love here is the Cheesecake Factory cheesecake, 470 milligrams of salt. We could just have fruit, nothing. Well, that's what I put down at the bottom. Not to mention 830 calories, 55 grams of fat, and 30 grams of saturated fat. And that's after you just ate a meal. So I think the point of this is just because it doesn't taste salty doesn't mean it's not.
So the Big Bang guys, we're themselves favor by
That's true. The guys on Big Bang eat at Cheesecake Factory every 5 minutes. Recipe modification, so you can cook with whole real food, add herbs and spices for flavor. Don't add salt, even if it says to. Try lemon or lime or liquid smoke to jazz up your flavors. And there's that slide again. I'm not sure how I did that. And eat at home more often. I think that's one of the best things. Don't check at the table. Pack your own lunch and snacks instead of you're going on a road trip. Let's pack our own lunch instead of stopping somewhere. Entertain at home instead of going out to restaurants. Plan ahead. It is kind of a lost art. Maybe not for you all, but yeah, cook ahead, free, so you don't have to cook every single night. Because I get that. You don't want to go home and cook every night. And be careful at restaurants. How do you do at restaurants? Do you say anything about the salt when you're at a restaurant? I don't. I'm not good at it. I don't either. Because chefs think adding salt is the key to everything.
Yeah, dress.
I do too, dressing on the side.
Rounded.
But we could say no salt. You know, I'm allergic to salt. Don't put any salt on it. Look up the nutrition info before you go. And I promise you, you might not go when you see all the stuff that's in it. Make special requests. Always go for the fresh stuff. Have a big salad. Ask for the dressing on the side or ask for vinegar. Have fruit instead of the sides that they offer. It's not easy doing these things, I know. Order a baked potato instead of the rice because they normally do cook the rice with broth. So it's going to have a lot of salt. So I just put here the Subway veggie patty. You think, oh, I'm doing the right thing. 11.40. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to kind of skip this, but there's this big, huge study called the DASH diet. It was in the 90s. And this is a study where they wanted to find out how sodium affected us. So they did one round where they just did a low-fat diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, and they reduced the sodium to 2,300 milligrams, which was the upper limit. And then DASH2, they lowered it to 1,500 milligrams in the second round. They found that in both rounds, hypertension was improved, but in the 1,500 milligram, no surprise, it was improved even more. Now, this didn't even talk about like where Dr. Lopez went with this is you have in all of your things, in all of your canned goods, boxed goods, have preservatives. And it seems that those preservatives are contributing to high blood pressure, not even accounting for the salt. Like getting rid of the salt is an issue. It's the preservatives. So the less we do of canned and boxed things. I mean, I hope next time I do this class, I have nothing to bring you from my cupboard, you know? But here's what they found in the DASH diet. Potassium and magnesium and calcium all were super helpful in improving blood pressure. They found that eating lots of potassium blunted the effects of too much salt. They do. But Kaiser's also about plant foods too. So I really love that about Kaiser. You were right. So bottom line, watch how much sodium you have. Don't shake it. Choose those unprocessed foods and move, get plenty of sleep, check your blood pressure like you do when you're here. Get to a healthy or healthier weight. If you think I am never going to be to the healthiest weight I should be, that's okay. Just getting a little healthier and keeping it there is the most important. Be careful about your stress management and don't smoke. I think that's it. And then I just have included in here are just a few little recipes for some homemade blends if you want to do it. You can just Google it. When I ran out of Italian seasoning the other day, I just Googled homemade Italian seasoning and I just made that one, which is probably how I got these. There's a Mexican one you can use. None of these have salt in them. And here's my recipe for the day. It was this watermelon snap pea salad. So what'd you think of it? It was funky. It just looked refreshing. So that's why I wanted to do it. So it was just, and there was no salt. I had to have something with no salt.
You have the full.
Okay, what?
I went back over to get some more.
It's all gone. Okay, that's a good sign. All right. So it's just the watermelon with the snap peas. The edamame was I bought it already shelled, frozen. I just microwaved it to cook it and then cooled it off. You have some red onion, the mint leaves. I think the mint leaves really make it. And I'm sorry, I love you all very much, but not enough to buy pine nuts because they're too expensive. So I put pistachios. Edamame. Just I've had snap peas, which are fresh. Yeah. And I just sliced those up. And then the dressing was really quick. I thought the dressing was kind of good.
Yeah.
It was just the lime zest and juice and white balsamic. Oh, you know what? I just used white vinegar. Huh. That would have been cool if I had white balsamic and maple syrup. And that was it. So nobody asked for fried chicken, pork chops, cheese puffs, or ice cream in the delivery room. Well, maybe the mom does, but the kid doesn't. We were all born without any preferences, so everything that we believe we like, we had to learn to like. So we can unlearn it, just like you said, we just need to work it. And we need to wrap our head around it. I think that's the important part, is wrap our head around it. So I think that's all I got. I thought I had my slide from Dr. Lopez, but I don't. But his point was really good in that we need to be careful about all these kind of foods I just brought you, because anything with preservatives might be contributing to our blood pressure. So eating whole real food is the best thing. Yes.
Why and how do you not wrong? How do you take care of all the gas that beans do?
Ah, beans are gassy. Yeah, you were right. You start small. You don't have big amounts of beans and you work your way up, because it's really all fiber foods do that too. But you have small amounts, you spread that out over the day. You could try things like Beano. You could make your own and degas them, which means you soak the beans like overnight. Throw that water out because a lot of the gassiness stuff comes out then, and then cook in new water. Those would be my ideas to degas. Anything? Anything from the peanut gallery?
Just to bring it to a boil and boil, I think it's 5 minutes. Then turn it off, rinse that water.
So that's okay.
Yeah, you're rinsing after soaking, and then you bring them to a boil, rinse them again, and then you cook 'em.
Really? I've never done that. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know what I have learned from experience in the Instapot? I love the Instapot because you don't have to soak your beans and you could just decide right now we're going to have beans for dinner. But if you don't soak them, they're a lot gassier. But that's a valid question.
Yeah,
And I don't know.
rinse your canned beans, gotta rinse. 'em.
Rinse, yeah.
Yeah.
And anything in a can, if you can rinse it. I can't rinse soup, but rinse it to lose the salt. Rinse it for about a minute in a colander. You lose about 40% of the salt. Okay. I'm sorry, I went over. All right. Anything else? Thank you out in Zoomland. Thank you guys. Thanks for reading your labels. I'll come around. Just leave your cans there. I'll come around and collect my cans. My husband's going to get home and say, we have nothing.